Hey there, I'm Pete Townsend, and this is Money Never Sleeps. We look inside the minds of entrepreneurs and at the crossover of startups, enterprise, finance, technology, and life as we know it. This episode of Money Never Sleeps is sponsored by SecuriCentrix. SecuriCentrix is a trusted cybersecurity company with offices in Dublin, Cape Town, and London. SecuriCentrix provides expert advisory services primarily in the finance and fintech industries with tailored security solutions to fit your specific needs and regulatory challenges. On the show this week, we've got
I'm Alexander Amartei, CEO of Arabian Camels.
Alex is an Irish entrepreneur originally from Shannon and is also an investor and film producer. He recently won the Hollywood Icon Award and the Monaco Streaming Film Festival Award alongside James Cameron and Mark Wahlberg. Alex is a producer of Antara, the first major DeFi Hollywood movie in history financed by NFTs and the power of Web3. With a strong background in equities, real estate, corporate finance, and an extensive Hollywood network, he has built a brand around the democratization and decentralization of the movie business through Web3, community, and blockchain. In addition to launching the Antara Movie NFT, he also carried out the NFT campaigns for Arabian Camels, David Bowie, and Queen, and is soon to launch the full physical DC comic collection onto blockchain. Finally, Alex has been a governmental advisor on the future of industry as it converges with Web3, tokenization, DeFi, and blockchain. In this episode, we dig into how all of this fits together into the incredibly unique individual that is Alexander Amartei. All right here on Money Never Sleeps. So Alex, listen, welcome to the show. Awesome to have you on. So thankful to Niall Dennehy for introducing us. Shout out to Niall. He was episode number 11 of this podcast, and you're going to be episode 195. So you guys got a little bit of breathing room between each other.
Good.
You and Niall were on a panel together at a conference recently. Was that the case?
I was on some panels in Cannes, and I think Niall was in the audience of one of them. And then I had to go to Paris recently, and we met at Finance Week. And he walked up to me, and he recognized me from the panel back in Cannes. And we just got talking, and so he said, we have to be introduced.
All right, cool.
So here we are.
Awesome. No, he's always introduced us as some great people. So thank you to Niall. There's plenty more I can share about him probably offline. He's a really good guy, very entertaining himself. So listen, probably to get started, Alex, could you share some of the foundational experiences that you've had in life that have pushed you along the path to where you are today?
Wow, that's a broad question with a potentially broad answer. And is that, specifically with NFTs or into the world of entrepreneurship or what?
Oh, I would say with how you got started in this space and what got you to the point of deciding, well, listen, I'm going to get into the business of financing movies through NFTs.
Well, I don't know. With respect to myself, I think the world of the entrepreneur is a very sort of self-exploratory path where it's a mix of, purpose, business, passion, things that you're very interested in, and it sort of comes together in an interesting way. And you find yourself doing different projects maybe every sort of 4 years, and you get involved in different things. I initially started in the equity space, and whilst I was in the stock market, we did some corporate finance for various companies, some oil companies or what have you. But one of them was a film, Denzel Washington film. And then, as I went further down that path, I did some corporate finance for one of the producers who did Merchant of Venice. And we always used to meet down at BAFTA. And coming from the city, which is a very sort of, stark, how do I explain it? Sort of a cold part of town,
it is, yeah.
Very stones and metals, and then I used to always go into BAFTA, and it was this sort of warm, vibrant atmosphere. Everybody's talking about the next story, and it's just a whole different dynamic in the air. And I think I just caught the movie bug back then. And and I guess I had a plan to go into the movie business from then. And I think it happens with a lot of people who are in investment banking or in the city or in equities or whatever. They have the idea to go into something more colorful at a certain stage. And I went into, so I did my first small film in 2018. And then when COVID happened, I think it squeezed a new trajectory out of a lot of us. And I knew not much was going to happen in the equity space. And I put my head down and I did the script for Antara.
Wow. No, it's amazing. And because I know what you mean about, starting off in financial services, right? And then being at the point where there's this creative streak in you that, whether it had been suppressed or you were expressing it in other ways, that this took over. And it's pretty cool to hear because it was a similar path for me that it was around 2016 where I started going in a much different direction after a long career in finance. So pretty
Mm.
cool.
I think creativity can take on many different forms. It's in music, it's in art, but it's also in business as well, and it's in finance. People can have the same prowess with creativity in all different fields. And ultimately, yes, I was a creative, but I think the good thing about coming into the movie business from the corporate angle is you come in with a corporate backbone and that commercial prowess. And that's really what helps people really do well in the movie business. A lot of people who are in the film space, maybe they lack that, and it might make their lives a bit difficult because they don't have the corporate. At the end of the day, it's a business. It's not just a dream. You have to make the dream financially stack up. So it's good to come from that background.
Yeah, I hear you. I had this conversation a couple years back with Ambra Subran, who is the CEO of a business in Paris called Kaiko, which is a cryptocurrency data business. And our chat went along the lines of during her career in investment banking that she kind of had hit the limit of creativity, or at least looking at how in investment banking that there had been a period that the market went through with derivatives in the 90s and early 2000s where that was creative and that was engineering and that was let's build something new. And then she kind of hit 2010, 2011 and saw, well, we've kind of done everything we can do. And that's how she jumped into cryptocurrency. So lots of common storylines here.
And CFDs.
Yeah.
Options and CFDs were like a big 20-year blow up. Yeah.
Absolutely.
And then,
Absolutely. But listen, tell us about Antara. This is a really interesting movie that you've written and that, tell us about the idea of the financing of the movie through NFTs and kind of where that came from and, how you perhaps started going down the blockchain rabbit hole to figure all this out.
Cool. So I'll just tell you, in terms of the story itself, I was on a plane back to London, and a friend of mine used to always talk about, he's you have different friends, you talk about different things, but this particular friend, we talked a lot about character, human heart, and what is it in somebody that makes them so different than, for example, what is it about Michael Jackson that he doesn't belong in Jackson 5 anymore? He has to go it alone. You know what I mean? What is it in the human spirit or heart that just makes them just so uniquely different, in whatever sense? So, and he'd always talk about Antara and as an example of this type of person. And he just said, if some clever young guy can just go to Hollywood and get this movie made, it will be the greatest epic of all time. And I don't know, the words just hit me. And I kind of sat back in my chair on the way back to London. I said, you know what? I'm going to do it.
Wow.
And that's how it happened. I mean, just the backstory of Antara, he was a black slave who was born in the desert. This is the pre-Islamic era, maybe 80 years before the Islamic era. And he was the son of a black concubine from Ethiopia. She was a princess, and his father was an Arab noble chieftain. So the law of the land is if you're born to a concubine, you're born as a slave, and that's your lot in life. And he, for whatever reason, he resented it so much. He had such a chip in his shoulder about the fact that he was born into slavery, and he knew he was way beyond. He could never accept it. So his whole life was about, number one, freedom, and number two, he wanted to marry the princess. And either it was like a match made in heaven type of thing, or maybe she was a symbol for him getting out of the slavery and being accepted in the ranks where he thinks he belongs. You know what I mean? So the whole movie is about him getting that freedom, and he becomes the most famous poet in all of ancient Arabia. So even until this day, if you study in Oxford or Cambridge or Yale or whatever, you study the literary works of Antara. And what's unique about him is he was not just there was great poets of ancient Arabia, but what's unique about him is he was also a knight. He became a knight and a warrior, and he was the most feared warrior of all. So if you read his poetry, it's a mix of like romance, but then, this sort of self-praising about his warrior culture and his code and, his bravery, his sort of his own personal code of conduct. It's really fascinating stuff. And it remains true until today because everybody knows what it's like to be the underdog, and everybody knows that they have potential inside them. And for whatever reason, they don't always achieve it, but they all want to, So he's like a quintessential underdog, and it's interesting to know that a black slave became the apex of Arabic language in the 6th century. That's quite interesting, for a slave to become your Shakespeare and define the standard of language in your nation,
Wow.
So I just thought it was packed with inspiration. It's a true story, and I just thought commercially, moving on to the NFT side of things and the commercial side of things, coming from a corporate background, I know things need to make sense with dollars and cents. And I thought commercially, where we are in the world, a black hero in Hollywood is a thing. Middle East has never had that breakout era. Like, Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, House of Flying Daggers, Hero, they represented a new shift in thinking in China, a breakout from the Raymond Chow era. And they stunned the world with their costumes, the quality, they really stunned the world. The Middle East has never had that. And I thought to do the Alexander the Great of the Middle East and the Romeo and Juliet of the Middle East, which is Antara, that's the story. Commercially, it makes a lot of sense. And to do an epic like Troy Gladiator, I just thought everything stacks up with this one.
Yep.
So then on the NFT side of things, I was initially going to do a crypto finance raise, and there was just too much regulatory red tape. Every different jurisdiction has a different stance on crypto and crowdfunding and things like that. And then I was looking at some of these NFT projects, and some of them are doing like 40 million, 50 million. And with the greatest respect to the founders, they just put that money in their pocket and, fair play to them. They did a good project and they made a lot of money, whatever. But I thought, okay, with 10,000 people and $50 million, you can really move mountains with a common vision. You
totally can.
I thought, yeah.
And was it your background in equities? Like you said, it needs to be financially sound. But what was it that led you to build up your own fluency in this space to the point where you became comfortable using this as a key financing mechanism for the film?
It's helplessly the future. Blockchain and crypto and just digital assets and the digital world is inevitably the future. And I thought, initially, coming from a traditional background, I thought when people talk about Bitcoin, I'm like, all right, come on, guys, get a real job type of thing. In a funny way, just come on, it's a fad, it's a bubble. But then when you ponder upon the efficiency of it, in economics, speed and efficiency always wins and cuts through to the chase. And it dawned on me that this is going nowhere. It's the future. And whoever is the most literate in this space and whoever has the most dominance within this space, they kind of own the future. This is the age of cyber power and technical power. It's no longer the age of, 100,000 army men. This is the age of cyber power. And I thought commercially, politically, economically, everything. So I just thought this would be an amazing story to not just do the first major Hollywood movie in Hollywood history financed by NFTs, but to be the most modern example of the future of Hollywood. What does the future of Hollywood look like in terms of ownership? And with in a normal world, you pay money and you get something in return. With the NFT space, you're paying for the NFT when you're buying 3 or 4 things with the potential of 5, 6, 7 other things, depending on your level of involvement, how much you help market the project, what you do here and there. And it's very multidimensional.
It is. And, right now we've got the SEC looking at Yuga Labs and Bored Apes, right? Because when they issued ApeCoin, where it was a DAO that was arm's length related to Yuga Labs, that it is a little bit too close for comfort. The fact that you've got Yuga Labs, which issued the Bored Apes, the NFT holder then gets a claim on ApeCoin when this other arm's length DAO issued ApeCoin. So the SEC is saying, can this be perceived as a dividend? And if it's perceived as a dividend, then it can be classified as a security. If it's classified as a security, then you need to follow securities laws and all those types of things, right? So had you dug into that at all? I'm just curious if you dug into that space at all.
Yeah, and the way I looked at it is NFTs are not a security, not even a commodity. They're still, to some degree, undefined what they actually are. Like it or not, people buy NFTs most of the time because they want to make money.
Mm-hmm.
That is the reality. They came into the space to buy NFTs and flip them and make money. People do it with NFTs. They'll do it with classic cars, which are not regulated. They'll do it with art. Whatever way people perceive that they can make a profit, they can do it. But some of the areas, like I think the SEC have now seen that this is turning into the shape of something called an asset or an investment.
Yeah.
Because that's largely the intention that's driving this market.
Yeah.
So it kind of makes sense for the SEC to sort of approach it like that. This is an area where people are investing, making money and trading, and therefore it has to sort of have some... we were in Parliament speaking about this, and ultimately, how can you regulate something which, number one, is not yet defined
exactly
a particular shape,
exactly,
and 2, something you don't understand.
Yeah.
And some of the people who are in the space don't even understand either,
Yeah.
because it's just so up in the air.
Oh, well, it is. And I was writing this morning because someone who is doing some communications for one of the companies I'm invested in and said, listen, do you think this, Yuga Labs thing is an issue at all? And I said, it's enforcement in the absence of policy, right? So they haven't, like you said, they haven't yet defined what's going on here. And what they want to see is just like, okay, you've got securities laws written in the 1930s. When technology didn't yet exist. And now you've got this new thing over here Europe is doing pretty well in getting some definitions down on the ground about this with the market and crypto assets regulation coming in, but the US is still a little bit behind the curve. So
you hit the nail on the head. You've got securities laws from 1930s, and we're in an era where even the whole legal framework surrounding intellectual property, it's now becoming, honestly, it's like going from 2D to 3D. And that shift is going to take, I don't know if it's going to take 1 year or 10 years, because it's that multidimensional. We don't have systems yet in place to really get a grip on that. I always say Web 1 is like a triangle, Web 2 is like a pyramid, Web 3 is like a sphere made from all these pyramids put together. And that's really the best way to coin exactly what's happening at the moment. There's so many innovations flooding the space from every different industry, from real estate, from shipping, from payment processing, from investing, everything. It's been flooded via the new Web3 world. And it's happening at such a pace. How can institutions keep up with it?
They can't. It's difficult. It's difficult. It used to be institutions front ran all of this with technology and bring that to the world. And technology evolved in institutional hands to begin with. And then eventually it became something that individuals could use. And now it's going the other way because of the smartphone, right? It's in our hands to begin with. And then the institutions seek to adopt it. So the other way around. Let me take a minute to tell you more about our sponsors. SecurityCentric strives to be the trusted partner that secures your information assets deemed critical for your business. SecurityCentric also delivers the highest level of security expertise and support to their clients. Even further, SecurityCentric provides independent cybersecurity assessments and advisory against best practice industry standards and compliance frameworks. Working as an extension of your team, SecurityCentric helps you recognize and control data risk to your business by understanding your level of risk. In short, SecurityCentric provides many solution offerings from assessment and advisory, managed security services, cloud and infrastructure validation, vulnerability management and testing, and payment security. Get in touch with the team at securitycentrics.com to learn more, or email info@securitycentrics.com. That's SecuriCentrix.com. Really interested in your roadmap for Arabian Camels and the Antara NFT series that goes along with the movie. Can you talk a little bit about what NFT holders get as part of minting and Antara NFT? How does that all unfold?
Sure. So in terms of the utility, again, we wanted it to be experiential. So some people can get a part in the movie. Some people can come on set when we're actually filming. Some people can come location scouting with us when we're going with the director. And, other things like getting producer credits and being able to come to the film premiere in Cannes, wherever we do the premiere, things like that. So just, the experiential factor is important because there's a lot of people who've joined our community who are either actors, aspiring producers, financiers, and who are sort of treating this as a use case and a masterclass and first-hand experience of what's going on in the world of film production. And most of the people in our community know the ups and downs that we've been through in terms of dealing with distributors, dealing with financiers, dealing with just traditional investors, and casting. It's quite interesting from their angle as well. And then we wanted it to be, for everyone to be able to own part of this project. We wanted to be able to share the intellectual property with people. And with the intellectual property, the good thing is that distributors have to pay, licensing fee to the IP holders, if that's you or if that's me. So it's not us sort of saying, here's some shares in the movie. It's, sharing our intellectual property, which can put people in the firing line to be able to, do things with that IP. And that could either be a free mint or an airdrop or things they can do to earn that and be able to, participate in the actual production itself, contributing creatively and actually doing things to help out in the production to be eligible, let's say, for royalties. So, it's early days. We're the first to do this, and it's, Larsa Pippen, in a press release about us, she said she sees this being like a use case in Harvard in 10 years from now.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm seeing a number of folks that are financing creative productions through NFTs, right? I think we mentioned when you and I first spoke about Stakes, who are one of the companies that I invested in through Techstars that are financing musical productions, and whether that be the recording of an album or a single, or that is a live production, that the upside of that production, whether it be for recorded music through royalties or whether it be for live events for ticket sales, that the upside goes back to the token holders, right? So creating that community, and but taking it into a movie with a $40 million budget, is that the number that's you guys are working with right now? That is a bigger thing.
Yeah, 45 million. You know what? We could have done 3 movies by now. Easily. I could have done like a 200K movie, get tax credits, bump it up to a 400K or whatever. We could have probably done 2 or 3 by now from when we launched. But we thought, if we're going to introduce a new system to the space, we got to do with something of epic proportions, because it's kind of like what Conor McGregor did for the UFC. Before that, UFC was just skinheads making each other bleed, and it was a bit gory or whatever. But when McGregor came in, he came in with a whole new dimension of entertainment, and it was that grandeur factor that really put UFC on the map. And I think if you're going to do something where you're introducing a new whatever, it's good to do with something big like the story of Antara, a big epic. The whole world can relate to an epic. It's different if you do like When Harry Met Sally or Groundhog Day. It's kind of maybe a bit niche or whatever, but an epic, we all understand that ancient symbology: swords and sandals, horses, war, peace.
Yeah, I love Groundhog Day, man. I can never see that enough times, and I think that's the point. You watch it over and over again, the same thing happening over and over and over again. Don't drive angry. I say that to my kids all the time. Not that they're driving, but I got it. Looking at how this all blends together, as we were talking about a little bit earlier on the Web3 side. I know that you have a partnership in place with Vampire on a play to earn game that will accompany all of this, in that looking at Web3, one of the big opportunities is what is referred to simply as blockchain gaming or Web3 gaming. And that's where you can monetize your in-game performance, i.e. play to earn, right? So, you could also take your in-game assets, NFTs, with you when you go to other games. It's not necessarily taking your Back to the Future, DeLorean, and driving that into Grand Theft Auto, right? Because the technology to support that just isn't there yet. But it's perhaps bringing, your Nike runners out of Roblox and bringing them into Decentraland, and that, just having them with you in your wallet, and having Decentraland being able to recognize that they're with you in the wallet, perhaps not rendering your Nike sneakers on your feet, but perhaps, recognizing that they're there, and perhaps opening up certain opportunities for you to join a Nike party in Decentraland, right? Whatever.
Yeah.
So, but one of the big hurdles with blockchain gaming, and shout out to Laura Walsh, because she's the one who said this to me initially, was that it needs to be fun, right? The game needs to be fun. And what makes a game popular is the lore, the mythology around that, believing in the characters and getting into all of that, and the storyline. By packaging this up, Alex, with an epic movie that you've already got that lore and mythology there, the storyline around the game should be that much more fun and that much more immersive and enjoyable for people. Was this all part of the formula? And how do you see this all unfolding overall in the industry?
No, really, really great points you made there. I mean, that's initially why I started this, and this is why I started Arabian Camels. It was just to launch the IP of Antara, and that's why it's called Camels, because I don't spoil the movie for you, but he's set a big task by the king. Antara wants to marry his daughter. He's just got his freedom now, and he wants to marry his daughter. And he says, yeah, sure, you can marry my daughter if you bring me 1,000 camels from King Numan. And these were like very rare black camels, the most lauded commodity of the day. And it was sort of like, yeah, right, as if you're going to do that. And at the end of the movie, he comes quaking through the desert with these 1,000 camels. So I called them the NFT project Camels, and I called it Arabian Camels. And that was just to sort of kickstart this, and give people utility of being involved in the movie and things like that. And gradually I realized, okay, we can do graphic novels, we can do comics, we can do games, we can do merchandise, toys, licensing, all sorts of things. And I saw the NFT space as being a huge fertile ground to be able to grow new IPs, because you've got all of that sort of that variation that you can sort of play with over sort of 10, 15, 20 years. So with the movie, it will support the game. With the game, it supports the movie. And like you say, the lore is there. And the story of Antara, I mean, it's the kind of character you let your kids sort of, you take example from him. All about chivalry, generosity, honesty, being true to your word. Like, there's great lessons in there for the whole world, actually. There's some adults need these lessons more than kids. But, so to be able to start with the game, with V Empire, it's going to be play to earn. We're going to have our token launch for that. And you use the Arabian Camel to play the game. So it's your vehicle within the game. So the cool thing about it is, if you're an NFT holder, if you own the Arabian Camels and you're not a gamer, you can still rent out or lease your NFT to players around the world, like a scholarship model. So what's interesting about that, and I hope it will be successful, is we're targeting places around the world as well, where people will play to earn, and they'll earn more from playing the game than their normal daily income.
Yeah.
From some parts of the world where they're doing street trading, or the economy is not so established, if they're earning $30 a day in places where they earn $5 a day, that is a very cool situation, and that changes the world in many interesting ways. So if you are renting out your NFTs, you're doing a good deed, maybe for some people around the world. They're earning, and they split their earnings with you as well. So you're earning passive income just from owning a camel, type of thing. So yeah, and then we'll go on from the movie. Of course, we've got sequels for it. We've got the game, and then we're already in talks with people for the graphic novels and the comics. We could do series. We could do things with Disney. I mean, I don't want to reveal everything, but there's some really cool things we can do with this IP, and that's why I chose this one to focus on rather than another small production.
Oh yeah,
because we've got years. I mean, imagine Batman comes along and says we're going to do a sequel, and the public's going to own 50% of the IP, or Star Wars says we're putting the intellectual property of Darth Vader alone, or Luke Skywalker, for 1,000 people, 1,000 limited edition club will own the IP of Darth Vader and anything relating to Darth Vader. That's where we're going.
That's amazing. I'd be at the front of the queue. And you mentioned the magic word, Alex, which is Disney, and you mentioned the connectivity between different mediums of IP, right? And that, which gets me thinking about the Disney flywheel. If you familiar with the Disney flywheel?
No.
The Disney flywheel goes, you watch the movie and you then enjoy the movie and you want to go to the theme park. And then you go to the theme park and you buy the merch. And when you buy the merch and get it home, you want to watch another movie. You want to watch another movie, you go to the theme park. And it goes around and around and around and around.
Yeah.
I've been working on this in the Web3 space. You could pick any part of the flywheel to start the story. Okay, so you're interested in the whole production and the whole story and the whole lore, and you buy the NFT. Okay, you buy that NFT, and then you want to go see the movie. You go see the movie, then you want to go play the game. You are bringing your NFT into the game. So because of the way that blockchain gaming works and the way that NFTs work and the way all this data is trackable, that you get massively good insights from that data on where the footfall is in how people are using the NFT. What are they doing with it in the game? And that then informs your next NFT issuance, or perhaps informs the next movie script.
Yeah, or the next graphic novel, or the next comic, or the next cartoon series. And like the toys, and you hit you articulated it very well, and that's the ultimate sort of vision of what we're doing with this. And the biggest challenge in this space is you've got small mediums like Discord, Twitter Spaces, where you don't get everybody. You've got maybe 12,000 people in your Discord, but you might get 80 of them at a time. I've had people who've bought like maybe 12 camels, and they had no idea we even had a movie. You know what I mean? And that's the challenge of communication within the space, and it's so clamored and so congested, it's hard to sort of get that airtime, to make people understand truly your vision. But you hit the nail on the head. It's really getting a big IP like that and creating a whole ecosystem. And and as well, what you mentioned about using your Nike runners and Decentraland and going from here to there, that's what I meant about different pyramids all coming together to form a sphere. Because if you put all of these factors together, the next 5 years looks like so insanely different a little bit exciting, a little bit scary, but there's that many innovations that are flooding daily that when you put them all together in 5 years, it's like a whole new world, like literally.
Exactly.
So
Exactly.
it's a new language we're all learning.
And that's the thing. And this all harks back to gaming. And I've talked about it on the show before, that having read the book Metaverse and how it will revolutionize everything over the past, I read that over the last few months. And that, the technology just isn't there yet for us to be able to all step into these metaverse zones that you see in movies like Ready Player One.
Yeah.
But all these things that we're doing right now with IP, by enabling things to start move around in this 2D virtual world that we call a laptop, a browser, a TV screen that we're playing video games on, all of that are the building blocks of this. So
yeah, I was with I was speaking recently just after Alan Boyd. Alan Boyd was the guy who was supposed to be the CEO of Microsoft. There was something there where he was going to be the CEO, and then it turned out to be Bill Gates or something like that. But he's been building these type of things for 20 years. He's not new to this. And when he was speaking on stage, he made a very good point, because I'm a little bit, I don't want to say I'm anti-metaverse, but I don't treat it as this new heaven that we're all running towards. And like, I can't wait till we're all in there. I like a walk in the park. I like to get outdoors, and I like to, I don't like to look towards a world where we're all going to be just wired up and in front of a screen all day, every day. Because look at what social media has done to people. Dinner table, everybody's got their phones. It's changed people in many, many different ways. But with metaverse, multiply that by 100. That's what I see as
totally.
metaverse.
It's extremely dangerous.
So,
it's extremely, it's worrying that my kids may be walking around with VR goggles on their head, not the big clunky ones that are in market right now, but the ones that look like ski goggles, right? That are depicted in Ready Player One, and that's all that they do. And that we need to keep the kids outside. We need to keep the kids playing sport, right?
But he made a very good point, though. He said, rather, he thinks the metaverse is going to come into our world. And what he means by that is these VR experiences, that it's going to be more, rather than us sitting in front of a screen all day, it's going to be more, how can that world come more into our world and interact with us in a very intelligent. And that is a very good point he made, and it's inevitable as well. So it'd be good to have some sort of balance, I guess.
Definitely, yeah. And that's where, you're talking about spectacles where you can see part of a virtual image in front of your face, but you're still engaging with the real world. This can go in so many different directions. Roblox is already here. That's something like 60 million daily active users.
It's interesting though, because I was in Cannes, and I was sitting with a friend. It was evening time. We were on the beach, sort of like jazz lounges, and we were looking in the sky, and we were thinking, you'd be able to do so much advertising with this sky above Cannes. And we were thinking, how do you even regulate who shows what above the sky? If you want to put some big advertisement above Buckingham Palace, who's going to stop you? You know what I mean? So it's interesting to find out how that's all going to be policed in the future, and how you're going to sell those digital rights of that digital airspace. And, it's like trying to make poetry without an alphabet at the moment.
Make poetry without an alphabet. Jesus. We're getting into Tolkien territory here with creating elvish languages, which some people say is the root of the metaverse, is, Lord of the Rings. But that's another story for another day. Listen, you're an entrepreneur at the core, Alex. What do you think are some of the key character traits of yours that have enabled you to just persist and to drive through this and to keep going?
My friend is a banker. He's an economist. He said, I hate creative people and I hate artists because they like things that are not logical. And he's a banker. It's just digits and decimal points or whatever. And I see myself as a bit of a mix. I'm definitely, entrepreneurially inclined, but I am definitely a creative at heart. And when I do things, there has to be, like I said before, like a mix of passion and purpose behind it. You could make billions of dollars being the most dominant paperclip provider on planet Earth, but it's boring as hell. So it's not about the money. Honestly, it's if it was just about the money, there's other industries where I just bury my head. But I love people. I love people all over the world, and I love the interaction, and I love the fact that when I got an award in Hollywood, and I said something on stage which maybe I didn't articulate it too well, but it's a very good point, which is we all know The Alchemist, which is about turning stone into gold. We've all read the book and we know what it's about, the whole idea. But if you think about it, humans have the ability to turn ideas into reality. It's better than turning stone into gold. It's you can turn an idea into a multi-billion-dollar situation. And that's really fascinating for me. Some things just start as a little idea in the back of a plane, and then all of a sudden there's awards, and then there's, you know, you show up on set, you're in cinema, you're at the Oscars, whatever, however far the path goes. But you think it all starts with an idea, and I find that fascinating. So when I do things entrepreneurially, I always like to mix it with a bit of purpose and the journey and what that journey makes of you as a person as well, you know. So
Totally.
yeah, I like it.
I see that modern day alchemy with Alex Amartei.
Yeah, exactly.
It's your autobiography coming up. We'll see. We'll see. Listen, we're going to move to the point of this show where we ask everybody the same closing question, Alex. What is one thing that people wouldn't expect to know about you?
One thing that people would not expect to know about me. I love words.
Okay.
Words is one of my biggest fascinations.
Can you speak backwards?
Depends on what I have to say and how long you want me to say it for, but like those computer programmers who learn the alphabet backwards.
To expand on that, loving words. You said it early, you know, a few minutes ago, but poetry without an alphabet, right? You started hinting at that, but expand on that a bit.
Well, I don't know. I can give an example. There's a part in the script of Antara where he's about to do a duel with another warrior, and he doesn't want to fight the warrior, but the warrior is insistent upon it. And Antara says something very eloquent, and the other warrior says, you know, what use are your words against my sword? But Antara says, he like mockingly laughs at him because he doesn't understand. He says, words can control 100,000 swords. Words build nations, words build empires, and destroy empires. It's all words. Ideas, like what we're doing now, movies, music, you know, making a dream happen, nothing is possible without words. So I find, I don't know, I'm quite nuanced when it comes to understanding words and the power of words and what they can do and not do, and the power they contain. But they make the world go round. These little thing called words. So yeah,
and that
you asked
that right combination, of the pen is mightier than the sword.
Yeah, and you know, and words are above them all. So, you know, if you say the right combination of words, you achieve this. If it's the wrong combination, you don't achieve it. It's very fascinating.
And yeah, well, man, I had spent a prior life trying to just not correct people's words, but look at the way they were saying things and like, listen, I know what you meant, but the words,
but you said it
totally wrong. We can do this better. We can do this better. You don't always have the benefit of having a smiling face behind the sentence of the words that are coming out. You need to actually sometimes massage things a bit. And how can people find out more about Antara the movie, Antara the NFTs, and Arabian Camels, Alex?
Yeah, so we've got a website, arabiancamels.io, and there's 2 videos there. And one was done by, actually, they were both done by Steven Spielberg's assistant. He was with Steven Spielberg for maybe, I don't know, many, many years as his right-hand man, and he was a phenomenal editor. So he made the sizzle reel that shows pretty much the story of Antara in 4 minutes. So do take a look at that. And the website, of course. And then there's another one, antaramovie.com, and that sort of prints out our vision. And of course, Twitter, Arabian Camels. Yep. And has a lot of our updates over the past year, the awards we won and where we've been and what we're doing. And it's quite interesting. We got invited to speak in House of Parliament, House of Lords, the CEDA, which is the Centre for Economic and Developmental Affairs of Saudi government. We were one of their first advisors on blockchain and incorporating NFTs in business cycles. We've been asked to speak for, you know, Oxford students on their projects and things like that. So it's been this is all in the past year.
Yeah.
Like all of this, it's kind of strange. Like it's a huge shift in direction, and a lot of things have happened. So yeah, I guess follow us on Twitter. There's lots of podcasts out there, and you know.
All right.
I can't give my WhatsApp number if that's what
no need. No, that could be extremely dangerous. You never want to do that. It's like giving your 12-word seed phrase out. Don't do that either.
Yeah.
But listen, Alex, thanks so much. It's been an awesome chat. We went down a number of avenues that I was unexpecting. So thank you. And
always the best way, yeah.
Absolutely. And I will be a fan at cheering you on and cheering on Antara. I was going to say from the sidelines, but I might be on the red carpet. We'll see.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, or on set with us. So we're hoping to shoot the film. If we can get it done by sort of March, April, that will be phenomenal before it gets too hot in the desert. We're going to shoot in a place called Neom, which is a UNESCO World Heritage Site. Really like the most dramatic rock formations, like Lawrence of Arabia backdrop, you know. So
awesome.
Yeah, maybe we can put a body armor on you and have you swinging a sword.
I got another story about body armor, but we'll leave it there. Thanks so much, Alex.
Cool. Pleasure. All right.
That does it for this week, folks. Thanks to Alex for opening up his mind to help us figure out why he does what he does. Links to learn more about the upcoming Antara Epic movie and the Antara NFTs are in the show notes for this episode on our website, moneyneversleeps.ie, so check us out online. Also, thanks to Conan Brophy from Create Sound for mixing and editing this episode. Conan is an excellent media man to get in touch with when you're thinking about launching your own podcast. As for me, I'm an early-stage startup investor focused on where fintech meets crypto and crypto meets Web3. If you'd like to talk to me about your business, drop me a line on info@moneyneversleeps.ie. Finally, till next time, thanks for listening. See ya!